Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today, we're going to be making a very special episode covering the Czech Cyclocross program, and with me to that is Filip Bezdek. He is a photographer and he is involved with the Czech Cycling Federation. Filip, we met, of course, this winter. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for the invitation.
We spoke a number of times this season. You have been my primary source of intel for the Czech cyclocross scene, which has really helped me stay up to date and provide some extra context to our listeners who are very engaged. Could you maybe shortly introduce yourself to the people who aren't as familiar with you yet?
Yeah, no problem. I working mainly with the Czech Cycling Federation as a photographer and content creator. Also, I'm doing something like a social media manager with some other guys. I started in the winter and mainly working with the cyclocross national team, which under the guidance of Michal Bednář and Petr Blask. And I working with them very, very closely on the race program, and some other stuff you need to know for the social media and for some other stuff. And yeah, I did a lot of races with them in the Czech Republic and also the World Cups, World Champs, and the cooperation will be in the next year also.
I think that's a key differentiation between how the Belgian and Dutch federation work with their photographers. They just hire somebody that's always there, whereas in many other countries you see that the people doing media are much more closely involved because the resources are a bit more limited. So let's start by covering a bit how the current racing scene is in the Czech Republic. We had for a long time the Toy 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 Cup, which has been having a new title sponsor in the HSF System Cup that has a number of rounds, I think from the top of my head 8, and then there's a few non-affiliated races. How would you say that the national racing scene in the Czech Republic is? How strong is the HSF System Cup?
The scene were much stronger in some last years, because we have a lot of good riders as Stybar, Dlask, Bina, Šimunek. Yeah, it was a much better racing, but now it's going to be better and better because I think the Petr Dlask and Michal Bednář doing very good work. They're working with the young talents a lot. We know that we don't have much guys in the elite category. There's only Boroš or Zemanova. The young and promising cyclists will be there also. It's a lot of guys doing also the mountain bikes or road cycling. I think in the youth categories, it's very important to combine the disciplines and be prepared for everything, because from the bikes you can have some new abilities to the cyclocross, or from the road cycling, the endurance. It's also good to improve in a bunch of disciplines.
Who is behind the HSF System Cup? Is that an independent organization, or does the federation also have a guiding role in setting out that schedule?
The SF System Cup, it's under the cycling agency, which is held in a Tabor. They are doing also the World Cup, and they did also the World Championships. They're doing also the cycling team, the Czech Cyclo Team Tabor. They're under the Czech Cycling Federation, but the federation doesn't have much to do in there because this agency is doing a lot by themselves, and they're doing a lot for the cyclocross. Because I think from all of the disciplines, the road cycling and the cyclocross are on the best level in the Czech Republic in all of the disciplines in the cycling.
You mentioned that the organizers of the Tabor World Cup are also behind the HSF System Cup. Tabor is a long-standing venue. It's together with Hogerheide, the venue that has hosted the most World Championships, I believe. The World Championships there in 2024 were a great success, great atmosphere, and now it's returning to the World Cup. It will be the first round of the World Cup. How important is it that there is a World Cup in the Czech Republic, especially for the youth categories, because Tabor is a race that, as long as I remember, has always hosted a full World Cup weekend with juniors, with U23s, everyone.
Yeah, it's very important, I think, for the riders and for the fans also, because the cycling, it's a very popular sport in the Czech Republic. You could see on a venues like mountain bike World Cup in the Nové Mesto, or some other races as amateur races like Letap or something like that. It's very important. It's a lot of people going there, and I think it will be again important to have more spectators than the last years. The world champs, it's the biggest amount of people, but I think the World Cup could be also good. And you know that they're doing that for a lot of years, and they have a lot of practice in it. I think it will be again a very nice World Cup, and hope one of the best in the calendar. But it's hard to beat the Belgian ones or the Netherlands ones.
Those are different types of races with different types of atmosphere and courses, but
Yeah, for sure.
in Tabor, I've been there twice now, and obviously for people from over here, going to other races far away is always a bit of a nice experience, which makes you a bit biased because it's a nice trip. But I do feel like the event is very well organized. The grandstands that they built at the World Championships there really added atmosphere. The fans there came in big numbers and they create good atmosphere. But what I'm wondering is, how big is cycling in general as a sport in Czech Republic, and what about cyclocross in the winter? You mentioned Nova Mesto mountain bike. I know biathlon is quite popular. They had the World Championships there as well, and I saw many people there on the grandstands. What are the biggest sports in the Czech Republic, and how does that compare to cycling and cyclocross?
In Czech Republic, the biggest sport is football and ice hockey. Ice hockey is very popular. You know, we have a lot of world champion titles. But yeah, the cycling I think could be also in a top 10 sports in the Czech Republic, because a lot of people doing this sport here. I saw a lot of new hobby cyclists. You know, it's the boom. It's in whole Europe, you know, and the whole world. A lot of people want to do road cycling or gravel cycling, cyclocross. It's very good, and I think we could see more and more people doing the sport, and I hope more young talents to do this. But yeah, the football is number one, also the ice hockey and some other sport like athletics. Yeah, you mentioned biathlon. That's very popular sport here, because we had a lot of like medals from the Olympic Games or World Championships. You know, the people following that sports more closely because of the achievements of the athletes.
Back to Tabor then. How is the future of this race? When we were there for the World Championships, the UCI was super complimentary of the event, and they were praising the longevity of Tabor being such a reliable, robust partner in the World Cup. The World Cup has become more expensive in the past few years. In Tabor, we see that they have a lot of different sponsors advertised. We see Skoda, of course, Czech company that is involved there as well in the sponsorship. How stable is this race? Of course, it makes sense that they take 1 year off after the World Championships because it's a big financial effort, but also for all the volunteers, lots of extra time going in. Where does the race stand now? It's returning to the World Cup. Is it stable?
Yeah, I think it's stable, same as HSF System Cup. It's you know, the whole program is really stable, but it's true that to find the resources, it's not easy in these days. Everything it's much more pricey, you know, and you need to think about it. I think the venue is stable, but the 1 year gap was very welcomed, I think.
Tabor is just a place which perhaps symbolizes the Czech cyclocross scene for many people over here. I wonder one thing, because while Tabor has a great course, and I think it's really worthy of the place in the World Cup, In recent years, we have seen a new race in Ostrava around an old mine, which has really seemed to be investing in its course. It was part of the UAC European Cup for a while. Do you know if this race has any ambitions to grow higher as well? Because in the past, there was Tabor, but there was also Pilsen, there was also a race in Prague, which has been on the highest level. Is there any ambition in Ostrava? Because that is also a very, very great course.
Yeah, the in Ostrava the ambition to have a World Cup there, it's very big because the owners of HSF system of the company, they are from Ostrava, and they really want to have this venue in that area, you know, which is very special because there's a lot of sporting venues. There's in a program there during the year as a beach volleyball or some cross country skiing sprints or something like that. And yeah, it's a very nice place. A lot of people going there like for tourism and stuff. This year or in the 26, like this season, will be there the national Czech national championship. And yeah, I think it's a nice plan to changing in the future the venues, 1 year in the Tabor and the next year in the Ostrava.
I think that would be a more than worthy World Cup course. This year, I watched the race on CT Sport, the Czech broadcaster, and it was a exciting race with the rain early in the season, which I didn't necessarily already expect. First cyclocross race I watched on TV, and immediately mud, slippery, lots of ups and downs, very beautiful venue with the factory. So it definitely has a lot of potential, and I think it would be a good addition. Rotation with Tabor could be nice. And maybe one year we will have two Czech World Cups if the Flanders Classic starts seeing and tapping into some more potential. But who knows what will happen there. That's in terms of races. Earlier, you already alluded to some of the talents that there are and that it's growing. What is the role and structure of the federation in the Czech Republic? In Belgium and the Netherlands, you see that a lot of riders race for teams and then they only go with the national team for the race weekend. But it appears in the Czech Republic, the federation has a bigger role in developing its talents. And you already mentioned that cyclocross seems to be part of a plan to help these riders become very good overall cyclists, not just only for cyclocross, but also for the road and or the mountain bike.
In the Czech Cycling Federation, the biggest position in the world in the developing the talents in the cyclocross mainly is a Petr Dlask and Michal Bednář. They doing, as I said, a very good work to working with the young riders. They collaborate a lot with Zdeněk Štýbar, the national team training camp in the Pension Štýbar last autumn, and I think it's a very good preparation for the riders. They see how the Zdeněk works in the past and how what he's doing now, and I think it's for them it's a big motivation to keep working and doing the cycling at the highest level.
You mentioned Bednar and Dlask as the driving forces of the national team. They had a training camp at the Štýbar pension. What does the program of the national team look like for the season, or what did it look like for the previous season? Perhaps that's the most concrete example you can give.
They have some training camps also in the summer. They have a training camp on the road bikes. They also doing something like a technique and on the cyclocross bikes and trying to build the endurance and also the skills during that time. And the program starting with the HSF System Cup. There's the riders are there under the clubs, and then trying to compete as best as possible to join the national team. In the autumn, I think there's a one training camp also, like as you mentioned in the recommendation of the Zdeněk Štýbar. Then they're going for the first World Cup that will be Tabor this year. And then I think they're going for 2 races in Belgium before the Christmas. The last year was Hulst and Zonhoven, and it will be really similar this year. And they're going a lot of venues after the Christmas. I think it's a Hogerheide, Besancon. It was last year. Also the Benidorm, and then the World Champs. Also doing the European Champs in the autumn.
So it really centers on the World Cups. Do Bednar and Lask also guide the first year juniors who are not that experienced in how many races they should do over the season? Like how do they decide which races in the Czech Republic they do? Are there like races where everybody comes and then others are less attended? Do pretty much everyone conform to the HASF System Cup? How does that function?
Yeah, the HISF System Cup is a main part because the Ben Nash also and Dlask also following the guys to picking up them from the clubs to the national team. They want from them to be still in the shape and doing the races you see in a Belgium. The calendar it's every weekend 2 races. Some races are in the middle of the week. It's a lot of HSF System Cup races, doing the races on their own. Like Michael Borosh, there's doing with the races with the Elkov Kasper team, and yeah, he has everything he needs for the race.
So these HASF System Cup races kind of act like selection events because many are there. It's the best opportunity for the coaches to scout and make their selections. Then you see in terms of race numbers that most of the Czech riders were between 15 and 20 races throughout the season, which is a normal number for a junior. As you say, if there's a race every day at Christmas for juniors, it's probably not so smart to do all of them to keep their form good for the World Championships. How is it for the federation? Because the Czech Republic is, of course, quite far east in Europe. The Christmas trip when we first met was in Hulst and we spoke each other in Zonhoven. That was pretty doable because you come over here, there's a couple of races to do, but it's not always been as easy because you have Benidorm, which is quite hard to get to. You have Dublin, which is not on the calendar anymore this year, but they've had junior World Cups there 2 seasons in a row. How is that for the Czech Federation to deal with? Because those are quite expensive undertakings for any federation, but especially if you need to travel more than 1,000 kilometers before you even reach it over here.
Yeah, as you said, it's hard to know. They're mainly to find the resources, to find the money to do this stuff. The Czech Republic is quite eastern than some other Western countries, as Belgium, Netherlands, France, something like that. For us, it's normal to go 8 hours to Belgium to the races. For the federation, it's not easy because they need to find the money for the road cycling, for track cycling, and in these other disciplines, you have venues all around the world. That we will have the World Championships in a road cycling in Rwanda. And the 3 days in the next 3 days will be European Championship in France, and it's not easy. And I think to deal with that, it's about a lot of compromises in the budget, and sometimes you can't go for a whole Christmas tour of the cyclocross races because you don't have resources for that. And that's the reason why our national team is going only for the World Cups and not going for the Super Prestige or some other series in Belgium.
Do your athletes fly to the races or do they mostly drive with the bikes and the fans?
They mostly drive, but if you have venues like Dublin or Benidorm or Pontevedra, something like that, you must fly there. and it's only like one or two cars with the bikes going there by the road. It's very hard for the staff, for the mechanics, because you are 2 days on the road, and it's not easy. That you pack the things, going for 2 days by car, then unpacked doing the races, and after the races going back home. It's very hard, and it's hard to find the people to work in this industry. It must be people who loves the sport and want to do it.
Shifting gears here a little bit, a few years ago we interviewed Petr Delask on the podcast. He was laying out his vision for a renewed Czech cyclocross program. He said that he started building during COVID, figuring out how come that we are not performing at the same level as we were 5 or 10 years ago. Since then, the Czech Republic has won medals at every single World Championships. It's 3 World Championships in a row that they have won medals. In Tabor, I believe it was 2 medals, a silver with Zemanova and a bronze medal with Bazant. How do you define the current state of the Czech national program? Because it appears that there's quite a lot of talent coming through in the last 5 years.
With the Petr Delask, it's everything goes higher. The mainly you could see on the medals that now the Michal Bednach, they're very nice work, and I saw from my position a lot of positive vibes in the team, and they working really good with the young talents, as you mentioned, Bajant or Bukovska. Also, the Zemanova, it's very young. Yeah, I think they're building the squad very well. You have problems everywhere, but you must to deal with that, and they're doing really, really good, really nice work. And I think the main part in that is the cyclocross agency, from Tabor, and they working under the agency, which is under the federation. And yeah, I think the whole concept it's working. Could be better in some ways, but I think it's still improving and still doing quite good work.
Let's go over some of the riders that we have seen from the Czech Republic. Zemanova, 4-time national champion. This season she won the national title, but she really struggled with long COVID. I read a long interview with her on CT Sport around the national championships. How is she doing now?
Yeah, now she starts riding in a road cycling team. It's called the WIF cycling team. It's a new formed team. The team it's owned by a guy who's selling the sunglasses, and it's a whole new brand. And yeah, she's doing quite well, but they have in the first season of the existence mainly races in the Czech Republic and around. They were also in Croatia, also in the Austrian Cup, Polish Cup, and yeah, I think for her it's very nice to gain the experience on the road also, and she could put some endurance into the cyclocross, and she will compete under this team also in the cyclocrosses, and I hope she will be good and she will be also in the national team. I think the Christina will also ride some gravel races. I think for cyclocross riders, the gravel it's a nice new opportunity to race somewhere.
Hopefully she's able, and it does sound like her health is steadily improving, and a bigger road program will for sure help her. It helps get some endurance, as you say, it helps get some speed, and then in combination with some gravel events, European gravel is not that bad to do for cyclocross riders. The American gravel, I've heard some mixed stories because the races are 300 kilometers and it makes you quite slow because it requires such a big endurance base. Some really mixed stories. Some people say it's worked wonders for them, others have been a bit more critical about the effects that has had. But in Europe, less of a problem. The gravel races are more like road races. There's a lot more road in it anyway. So one remaining question about Zemanova. She raced for Brilon before, and there was a story that after the silver medal at the World Championships in Tabor, there were few Belgian teams interested in her, but ultimately they didn't really come forward with any good offers. What of that should we take for truth, and what should we take for some speculation?
She has some offers after the Tabor or some other races where she rides quite well. She picked to stay in the Czech Republic, and I think this it could be, after next season she could have some more offers to go abroad. It's I think it's still possible.
It's always difficult for non Dutch Belgian riders to find a home in one of the biggest teams because most of those teams are Belgium and they are not that interested. My understanding was also that Proximus was one of the teams that came forward, but that they offered her even worse conditions than Brilon, and that then she decided to just stay with a team that provided her with more support, which is completely understandable because she was at that point one of the top talents, so she should also be treated as one and not sign a very bad deal just because it's with a Belgian team, because the support from the Brilon team where she's been is not bad at all, and the federation is there to help out, so that makes sense. Another rider that has been doing well in the U23 category on the women's side, in the absence of Zemanova, is Simona Spezna. I must say I was a little bit surprised to see her finish in the top 10 of the World Championships this year. She's a mountain bike rider, I discovered. Could you fill us in on a bit more about who she is?
Yeah, the Simona is doing mainly the mountain bikes. Now she is in a Massey factory team. It's a Spanish mountain bike team, and I think it's very good that she could be in this big team. In the past she was in a Brunex mountain bike team, and that's Swiss, I think. And yeah, she's doing the mainly mountain bikes, but sometimes also the cyclocross for preparation for the mountain bike season. And yeah, she did very well in Levan. For her, the course was her for her because it was a very slippery, very muddy, and for mountain bikers, it's quite good, I think.
Would you say that a rider like this, that is important for the federation, that cyclocross kind of serves as a platform to develop riders and help them through the winter for their mountain bike campaign and road campaign, or develop skills for those disciplines which are Olympic and potentially provide more funding for the federation?
Yeah, absolutely. You could see on a lot of cyclists in the Czech Republic in the young age they're doing also the cyclocrosses because for preparation for road season or for mountain bike season it's super good. But yeah, the cyclocross needs to. I think it's not a Czech problem; it's a global problem. That you need to the people to stay in the cyclocross. For elite categories, as we see in Belgium or in the Netherlands. But yeah, in some other countries, it's a problem. But I think it's not only the problem in the Czech Republic. But yeah, you could see it's possible that the talents like Bukovska, Bajant will go to the mountain bikes mainly. But yeah, you could see Zemanova. It's mainly the cyclocross rider, and it depends on the people, who wants to do this or that. But yeah, for federation, the cyclocross is very important because they're developing the talents, and as we have a lot of races, it's small series also. The kids have a lot of program during the autumn and the winter.
You're completely right. It's not a Czech issue, it's an issue everywhere outside of Belgium that the riders that are good in cross go to the road, and it's partly because, also mountain bike by the way, but it's because there's more teams there that have more money. So if you're good in cross and mountain bike as a Czech rider, you're most likely to be signed by a mountain bike team. We just covered what happened to Zemanova. We see that many riders that have good results, even as a U23, don't get signed by one of the bigger teams. And if you get offered more money or any money at all to race on the road or mountain bike, it makes sense that your priority is drawn there. And it is vital for cyclocross, if it wants to stay in life, that more and more of these riders are able to stay within cyclocross. And in that sense, it was optimistic that Stefano Viezzi, the Italian junior world champion of Tabor, was signed by Alpecin and is being provided with a pathway. But we can only hope that that happens for more riders so they can stay within the sport. One rider who that might be a bit difficult for now is Bazant. He was very good as a first year junior. I'm still extremely high on his talent because early this season he was really good in Ruddervoorde and Essen. In Essen he started all the way at the back, moved straight through the field, takes the win. He took the win in Ruddervoorde. He finished on the podium of the World Championships in Tower as a first year junior. But he's been sick a lot this winter and therefore wasn't able to perform at the best of his ability. How do you think that will impact his career? Because how important is it for a Czech rider your years as a junior? Maybe more than as a Belgian?
Oh, I think it's similar, in junior categories in these countries. It's not easy to have these issues in the middle of the main cyclocross season. But I think he could be back also next year. And as you said, in Essen, he won like dominantly, and it was also the same in the Czech Republic at the start of the season. But it's the same with the Zemanova, the health issues. If you have a bad health, you can't compete on the highest level. He could perform really good in the next years, and he's doing really well also on the mountain bikes.
So I think we've had enough of the illnesses and the bit unfortunate stories because there was still success for the Czech Republic this cyclocross season. There was a really strong generation of junior women. Before we maybe go into the specifics about Bukovska and Grova, how is it that the Czech Republic appears to have, for quite a few years now, really consistent talent on the women's side?
No, it's a good question, but I think sometimes it happens, that you have a strong like 5, 6 athletes that could compete together. I think they are all friends, and they're going to the races and enjoy the fun mainly. And that's a big part of the game because they could enjoy the time together, training together, and also compete together on the races. And for young people as they are, it's very important. Yeah, you could see on the Czech Cups, also on the World Cups, their ability to have a good results. It's very similar. The Bukovska, it's the best one, looks best one, but the other girls are not so behind.
No, Bukovska is a special talent, and if you look at this season, the performances she's been able to deliver. Second place at the European Championships, just lost the title to Anja Grossman. Then Dublin World Cup was maybe not super special, but then at Christmas, we saw a number of times in Hulst, she didn't have a good start, but fought her way to the front, take second place. The next day in Zonhoven, her start was even more unfortunate. It was a bit of an incident which held her up, but then after the second lap, she completely moved forward, made a push, finished third, and that was kind of the story of the season, where you saw that the start was not that good. Then she made a push to the front and managed to come back. And in Hoogrijden, that was even with a crash at the end of the first lap and the crash at the start of the first lap. Knee was wounded, but she comes home to take the win. At the World Championships, the start was probably the best of the season. It wasn't amazing, but she was in the top 10, push forward. You get the story by now. It's a rider who didn't have great starts, but has great power. Her skill level is quite solid as well, and has been in play as a first year and finished second at the World Championships. It was a really good season for her.
Yeah, as you said, I think she has some problems with the starts, and she needs to improve that. But I think it's normal in the junior category to have some good and also the bad sides. You need to improve all these things to be like a complex athlete, and yeah, I think it's quite normal.
How do you reflect upon her season with silver medal at the World Championships, third place in the World Cup, one World Cup win?
The for the Czech cyclocross, it was really important, because as a small sport, as a cyclocross is in the compared to others or other disciplines, you need to gain the medals and the good results. In the federation there you have a better position, and I think in the future there could be cyclocross on the Olympic Games. You will have a better position in the whole Czech sport. If you have medals. I think that we are very happy from the Bukovska and some other juniors like Grohova or Gotwalda and Bajant. Also, they're doing quite well, and I think for it's the best thing for the Czech cycling.
Of course, at the World Championships, Bukovska was very close to the world title. She celebrated one lap too early. I mean, we covered it back then, and what we said then, I discussed this with Isam before, it still stands for us. The amount of reactions that caused for a super young girl was definitely out of proportions. How was she after the race? How has it affected her that much? The number of reactions that she's gotten from in and outside the Czech Republic?
She wasn't affected by that, because sometimes this could happen to you. We could see the case of Adam Čupalik. That was a worser, I think, than this, but Bara was really happy with the bronze medal. Some people in the Czech Republic have a lot of comments to the national team, to the federation, that we should tell her, but that you can't tell to the riders anything during the race because there's 15 or 20,000 spectators, and they are in some like a tunnel vision. It could happen. It could happen to the best riders on the world, and she's 16. It was like a euphoric race for her because she pointing to that race because it was a goal of the season, and if you win in the Hoogerheide week before the World Championship, you have in head that you are one of the biggest favorites of the race.
Obviously, it's always unfortunate when things like that happen, right? But you're right. There's many spectators there. It's hard to communicate. Ultimately, the rider themselves is also responsible of keeping track of the lap count, and it is easy to be confused, especially with so many different things going on. And the announcer was announcing in several different languages, and in French he was saying dernier tour, but then sometimes he said les deux derniers tours, which means the two final laps. But if you're racing and you only hear final lap, then things can get confusing quite quickly, especially with so many fans at the start finish line with bells. You don't really
Yeah,
know when it's the finish bell or the spectator bell or whatever. So there's a lot of different things going in there. You also mentioned Grova, also a top 10 finisher. She finished 8th, also a first year. So that leaves two medal contenders for next year when the World Championships will be held in Hulst. European Championships will be in Belgium in Middelkerke. Exciting times. Perhaps my final question is regarding the relay. We've seen Czech Republic race the relay at the World Championships a number of times. What's the role of the relay in such a World Championships weekend for the Czech Republic?
yeah. I think for us the relay it's much more than for the Belgians or the Netherlands, because they are really focused on the races itself in the Saturday and the Sunday. But for Czech riders, it's good that you have some race tempo. You could race one more day, and you could some people could be a good preparation for the main races. And for us, it's important, because we could have some good achievements there, and also, as I said, more good results. It's more points in the federation, like for in the battle with other disciplines. And yeah, it's really important. And I think in Lievan you could see that the very young relay could compete with countries like Belgium, France, and yeah, it was on a very high level, I think.
Then the final question, we ask all of our guests to list a song which for them represents cyclocross to create a playlist. What is the sound of cyclocross for you?
Oh, I think for me it's some of the techno songs, from the Belgium races. I think the some of the average rock songs, it's very good that I could pick one of them and send you later.
Perfect. We will add it to the playlist, and for our listeners, they can find it in the description. We will also link Philip's Instagram page there, so you can see some Czech cycling pictures on there if you are interested as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That will conclude this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast. Thanks everyone so much for listening. We will be bringing a number of interviews over the summer as we start building towards the cyclocross season. And we will, of course, resume our road racing coverage as well. Thanks for listening and see you guys soon. Goodbye.